So next we're going to talk about mass versus weight. People usually confuse these two and mix them up. And when we just talk, it's really easy. I could say how much you weigh, and if I'm talking to somebody in Europe, they will say I'm 57 kilograms or however much. It's really easy to screw this up, and you guys are probably about to give me a few examples of mixing this up. And then I'll say, thank you, perfect example. You'll see. Okay, so let's go ahead and start by defining mass. Who can define mass for me? Nobody can define mass? What do you think? That's volume, isn't it? Yeah, it's kind of the amount of stuff in an object. We'll call it the amount of matter for the sciencey term, but all matter is just stuff that takes up space. We'll say the amount of matter in an object. How do we measure mass in the metric system? So to call the metric system, I'm just going to call it SI for System International. It's the International System of Measurements. There's only 3 countries in the world that don't use this system, and we're one of them. But how do they measure mass in the metric system, or the System International? Kilograms, we're going to say grams, because all a kilogram is 1,000 grams. It's technically measured in grams, kilograms. And hopefully you know that K means 1,000. Like if you've ever heard Madden 2K20, what does that mean? Madden 2020. So if I say 2K20 or 2K grams, I'd say 2,000 grams or just 2 kilograms. Savvy? So even if you're bad at math, you're still aware of the term kilo. The cool thing about the metric system is that is universal. So if I say a kiloliter, it means 1,000 liters. If I say a kilobyte, it means 1,000 bytes, and so on and so forth. Yes. All right. So how do we measure mass in the U.S. system? Pounds. Perfect. Perfect example of mixing up mass and weight. Very good. No, that is weight. We measure in the U.S. system mass, and I'm not kidding, in slugs. There's a conversion rate for slugs. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. I'm not exaggerating. I did it this morning, and I found out that I was 6.06 slugs. That's how much mass I take up. You just type it in Google, or pounds to slugs, and you can get your own conversion rate. It's kind of fun. We don't use it very often, and hopefully by the end of this lesson, you'll understand why. Yeah, that's how we measure mass. Okay, it's the amount of object. What about weight? Let's go ahead and find it for ourselves. So weight. Okay. Weight is not mass. Weight is gravity's effect on mass. Weight is gravity's effect on mass. You could think of it as the force due to gravity. So we can say also known as force. Because it is a way to measure force. How do we measure weight in the U.S. system? Pounds. Very easy. How do we measure weight in the metric system or the System International? Kilograms. Perfect. Example of getting it wrong. Because didn't we just say grams was mass? So a kilogram is just 1,000 times more mass, but it's still mass, not weight. We measure it in newtons. The guy who figured out gravity and all that, we named him after him. Scientists are really good at naming things after other scientists that figure stuff out. In engineering, we're a little bit more simple. We tend to name things in ways that make sense. So if we, invent something that muffles the sound of a car, what do you think we call it? A muffler. Because that makes sense, right? If I had a chain that times my engine perfectly, what do you think I would call it? A timing chain. And if I made it in the form of a belt instead of a chain, what do you think I would call it? A timing belt. Because that makes sense, right? Just little fun, little difference between scientists and engineers. I cannot stress this enough. You guys gave me 2 perfect examples of this. This is easily confused. But weight does not equal mass. Now, on Earth, it really doesn't matter because you can use them interchangeably. But if you go to the moon, if I built a teleporter to teleport you on the moon right now, would you lose any mass? You would have the same number of atoms in your body as before. Would your weight change? That's what I mean. It doesn't matter as long as you're on Earth, but when you leave Earth, it kind of changes the weight. It doesn't change the mass, though. Does that make sense? So we say weight is equal to mass times volume. No, not volume, I'm sorry, times gravity. I'm losing my mind in my old age. Mass times gravity. And that's the difference between weight and mass.